ultimately the big win for him would be that he was even willing to do it and that he could do well for a little bit. And then eventually just deal with the fact that Anthony Joshua is going to connect with a bomb and breaks his jaw in 2 places.
Alright, so check this out. The entire combat sports world just went absolutely insane after what Joe Rogan said about Jake Paul following some serious allegations that surfaced after that brutal knockout loss to Anthony Joshua. Rogan completely lost it and started talking about how Paul might actually deserve prison time for what he's allegedly done to boxing. This wasn't some casual podcast rant either. People who heard it are calling it one of the most explosive meltdowns in the show's entire run. The UFC commentator went nuclear on Paul, claiming he systematically destroyed the integrity of a sport that took over a century to build.
Alcoholics, you could only take so much. Like that one that he got from Joshua, there was a lot of concussions in that one punch. That was real damage. Like if someone's breaking your jaw in 2 places, the inside of your fucking head that's gonna get you. Because at a certain point in time, the price you pay.
Things escalated fast when Rogan didn't just criticize Paul's impact on boxing. He actually said the YouTuber turned boxer should be locked up if these allegations turn out to be true. That's an incredibly serious statement coming from someone with Rogan's platform and influence. The whole mess started when rumors began circulating that law enforcement was looking into suspicious circumstances surrounding that December 19 fight in Miami between Paul and Joshua. Sources close to the podcast recording say Rogan's crew was genuinely shocked by how angry he got when discussing the situation. He supposedly said Paul deserves to rot behind bars for what he's done to boxing, and that this goes way beyond just one questionable fight.
There's maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 Anthony Joshuas that can punch, that can avoid punches, that know what they're doing in the ring. So Jake will struggle at top level, but he has a place in boxing if he wants to stay, in my opinion. So credit to him and his team for getting him this far.
Jake Paul's legal team is going crazy, threatening to sue anyone who spreads these claims, but nobody knows where this controversy heads next. There's no clear timeline on whether authorities will actually do anything or if this whole thing just disappears. Like other boxing scandals, Rogan's explosive reaction came right after boxing promoter Lou DiBella posted a viral video questioning whether Anthony Joshua was really trying his hardest against Jake Paul. That video completely opened the floodgates. DiBella claimed the fight looked suspicious from the opening bell and that Joshua was pulling his punches instead of going for the early knockout everyone expected.
People question, whether fights like this are quote-unquote real. Like Deontay Wilder said something. What's the simplest answer you give them?
I give them a cease and desist letter in their email for lying on my name, and then the lawsuit's coming right after because these people won't stop lying.
Jake Paul's team keeps denying everything and threatening legal action against anyone spreading these stories, but that brutal knockout he suffered proves Joshua definitely wasn't holding back when he connected with that fight-ending right hand. What makes this really wild is that Rogan was actually defending Paul before the fight happened. He praised Paul for having the courage to step up against such a dangerous opponent like Joshua. Now suddenly he's talking about possible jail time. That shows how dramatically the situation has changed and how seriously Rogan is taking these allegations.
This was supposed to be Anthony's payout, but he's not seeing a dime. Anthony doesn't get the money anymore because he broke the rules. Simple as that. You break the code, you lose the purse.
Here's where it gets really crazy though. Rogan had actually given Jake Paul major props during an earlier podcast episode. He told his audience that Paul deserved serious respect for accepting such a risky fight against a legitimate heavyweight champion. This matchup is absolutely insane, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. You're taking someone who just fought a 58-year-old Mike Tyson in what was basically an exhibition match and now putting him against one of the scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. That takes real guts, Rogan said with genuine admiration before the fight. That right hand will put your lights out instantly. We're talking about an Olympic gold medalist heavyweight with devastating one-punch power. He's a master at putting people to sleep, and that's not hyperbole. That's just the reality of what Jake Paul was walking into. Rogan warned his listeners while trying to explain the massive risk Paul was taking. Joshua is going to be absolutely terrifying in there, and he'll have everything to prove. He's going to be furious that this YouTuber thinks he belongs in the same ring with him. Rogan predicted with scary accuracy.
Throughout all those fights, but it's still like when you fighting like fighters who actually like done it for like their whole life, it's a little different.
Sadly, Rogan's prediction came true in the most brutal way possible, but now his entire attitude has completely changed after everything that's come out since that knockout. Recently, this whole dramatic situation unfolded when Jake Paul got absolutely destroyed by Anthony Joshua in round 6 of their Miami showdown at the Kaseya Center. The violence was hard to watch. Both fighters entered that ring with huge expectations from their teams, but what happened shocked everyone who thought Joshua would finish Paul in the first couple rounds. Paul's strategy was obvious from the start, and honestly, it was his only chance at survival. Stay alive as long as possible by constantly moving, clinching, and avoiding Joshua's devastating power at all costs, even if it meant running and grabbing whenever necessary. The fight played out differently than experts predicted, with Paul somehow surviving until round 6 before Joshua finally landed that fight-ending shot that shattered his jaw in multiple places, requiring emergency surgery. The impact was absolutely devastating, and you could see Paul's body go completely limp.
Jake Paul had a very healthy fear for his life while he was in there. He was running away. He was trying to get distance. Then he was trying to step in to win this contest. And then he's trying to get out of the way so that he doesn't get hurt again. He was fighting. He's got to go forward. So now he's clinched him. Now he's dropping down to his knees.
Paul was literally just trying to survive in there, and you could see the fear in his eyes every time Joshua got close enough to land clean shots. The 28-year-old Paul used every survival trick in the book to stay standing. He kept hitting the deck and grabbing Joshua's legs whenever the former champion got within striking distance, which annoyed Joshua but delayed the inevitable. Video footage of that final knockout moment shows Paul's face displaying pure terror right before Joshua's right hand exploded into his jaw with bone-crushing force that echoed through the entire arena. The clip shows Paul collapsing in a heap as the referee immediately waved off the fight while Joshua celebrated and Paul remained down spitting blood and completely out cold. Paul was rushed to Miami University Hospital where he underwent emergency surgery lasting several hours to reconstruct his destroyed jaw using titanium plates. There's absolutely no question that knockout was completely legitimate and devastating. No doubt whatsoever. That's exactly what happens when someone faces real heavyweight power. Props to both fighters, but that was brutal to witness. Jake Paul just learned the difference between fighting old guys and fighting an actual champion in his prime. That lesson had to hurt in every possible way. The knockout was absolutely incredible in its pure brutality. From my perspective, that was total domination by Anthony Joshua and complete proof of his championship-level ability. Joshua showed real class after the fight, giving Paul credit and displaying true sportsmanship. Jake performed really well tonight considering who he was facing. I'm gonna give him proper respect because he earned it. He kept getting back up when most people would have stayed down. That was extremely tough for him, but he never stopped trying to survive and maybe land something significant. That takes real heart and I respect him for it. Joshua said, but days later, the controversy exploded when people started questioning why it took Joshua 6 full rounds to finish someone he was supposed to knock out immediately. Jake Paul's team has been aggressively addressing these allegations through legal threats and public statements. Nikisa Badarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, appeared on the Ariel Helwani show to confront the growing controversy and defend Jake Paul's reputation. Badarian insisted the accusations were completely ridiculous, and their legal team was ready to take action against anyone spreading false information. Our lawyers are actively going after multiple people making these baseless claims. Badarian told Helwani with clear frustration, there has never once in Jake Paul's entire career been any discussion of that type of thing. Not even a hint. Anything suggesting the fight was anything other than completely legitimate is totally false and defamatory.
For sure. And then he won too, and then I got dropped. Was doing good. I just think my cardio, just the mental pressure of the big guy and sparring the big people is different than the 10-ounce gloves. So I was feeling his power a lot more. But it was a great experience. Like, I learned a lot in there.
But Darian specifically called out Lou DiBella by name, claiming the experienced promoter had made unfounded allegations that needed to be confronted through legal action. According to Badarian, Jake Paul has consistently competed in legitimate fights throughout his entire career, and these accusations were damaging to both Paul's reputation and the promotional company they've built. Lou DiBella: I saw him post a bunch of ridiculous things on social media, and he even said go ahead and sue me, but this wasn't a real fight according to him. Joshua was supposedly pulling his punches. He allegedly wasn't giving full effort, but Darian said with obvious anger. He also explained why the fight lasted longer than expected, pointing out that Anthony Joshua himself had predicted a first-round knockout during pre-fight interviews, but circumstances in the ring made that impossible. Anthony Joshua was publicly on record multiple times saying that if he didn't finish him in round 1, that would be disappointing. That would represent failure on his part as a former champion. The narrative shifted as we got closer to fight night and people began realizing Paul might actually survive several rounds. But Darian explained while trying to provide context for why the fight went 6 rounds instead of ending instantly.
For everyone wondering about Jake's strategy, most of the people don't know boxing, but I will outline one thing that even like I asked about. So like moving around the outside, to your point, like everyone's saying, oh, he ran the whole time. No, that's boxing. That's what Floyd Mayweather built his career off of. Especially when you're facing a bigger guy who controls the center of the ring. The only way to properly win is stay on your horse, pivot, switch directions, make a miss. Like that's the name of the game. That's elusiveness. That's evasion. That's good.
Recently, Joe Rogan completely changed his tune after hearing all these allegations and seeing how the boxing community was reacting to the controversy. Rogan addressed everything on the Joe Rogan Experience, delivering what many consider one of his most passionate commentaries ever about combat sports and fighter safety. It's not worth it for Jake Paul to continue, Rogan said during the podcast, discussing Paul's boxing future. There's a price you pay that just isn't worth it, and that price is severe depression. Real depression. A chemical imbalance that's going to drive you toward addiction and potentially worse outcomes. The podcast host went deeper, explaining the serious damage Paul took from Joshua's knockout punch, getting into medical details most people don't understand.
Was this fight set up? Was it a fix? Did something go on in this fight? Because how could it have went 6 rounds or 5.5 rounds? Come on, mate. Did you see that video? Watch that video again. It's going to play again after I've spoke. And tell me that that was set up. He got hit.
That shot to the chin he took from Joshua. Think of it like you have a punch card with a limited number of punches you can absorb in your lifetime, which I absolutely believe you do, based on science. I believe there's a specific number your brain can handle. That one shot was worth 10 punches of damage. That was multiple concussions compressed into one devastating blow, which is absolutely terrifying when you think about it. Rogan explained with genuine concern for Paul's long-term health. He continued breaking down the medical reality in terms everyone could understand. When someone's breaking your jaw in multiple places with one punch, there's serious damage happening inside your skull that we can't see. These comments show Rogan's deep concern for fighter safety, but the boxing community noticed he went much further when discussing what these allegations could mean. During that podcast episode, sources claim Rogan made much stronger statements about potential criminal activity in boxing that haven't been widely reported yet. A veteran boxing analyst was more direct, saying something must change about celebrity boxing before someone gets seriously injured or killed. This whole circus has gotten way out of hand. When you have YouTubers fighting world champions and then questions come up about whether everything was legitimate, that's when boxing loses all credibility with real fans. The analyst said in a recent interview.
What, did Jake Paul reached out to you?
Yeah, they reached out to the team. You know what I mean? They reached out to the team.
What'd you think about that AJ fight?
Well, we all knew what was gonna happen.
I thought Jake was gonna win, bro.
Huh?
I did. Dude, Jake won the first 2 rounds.
The sport. Boxing cannot survive if every major fight gets accused of being manipulated by financial interests. That's the reality we're facing now. Either clean everything up or watch boxing die a slow death, he added, with clear frustration about the current state of the sport. While Rogan made it clear that Jake Paul showed courage by taking the fight, his comments about potential prison time suggest he believes there's much more to this story than what's been revealed publicly. This latest controversy comes just months after Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson in November, which also faced accusations of being fixed despite being sanctioned as a professional bout by the Texas Commission. Despite Paul's team doing everything possible to silence these accusations through legal threats, it's now clear that the boxing community has serious questions about the legitimacy of his recent fights and his entire career.
Respect to Jake, they both made $93 million each, which is an absolutely outrageous sum considering a UFC top contenders barely scraped together $1 million a fight. But people carrying on, wow, what a warrior, big respect to Jake. You gotta view this like a WWE script. Look at the facial expressions of Logan and Jake. No one is taking this match seriously. It's all for entertainment. People will talk about, wow, but he broke his jaw, you know, big respect to Jake. Yeah,
This was bound to happen after years of suspicion building in the combat sports world since Paul first started his professional boxing career in 2020 fighting other YouTubers. The questions initially arose when Paul exclusively fought MMA fighters with no professional boxing experience. Former NBA players who had never boxed professionally and aging former champions well past their prime. There were good reasons for the skepticism from hardcore boxing fans, and it's basically common knowledge that Paul has strategically chosen opponents to maximize his chances of winning while creating maximum revenue from casual fans. Though Paul has repeatedly denied these claims through social media, the pattern of his opponent selection speaks volumes about the calculated matchmaking strategy his team has used over the years. But things reached a tipping point when Paul stepped up to face Anthony Joshua, a fight everyone expected to be completely one-sided in Joshua's favor from the opening bell. The fact that it took 6 full rounds for Joshua to finish Paul has raised more questions than answers for the boxing community, which expected a first or second round knockout.
Everyone's laughing at Jake Paul when Jake Paul's laughing at everybody else. You know, everyone's making fun of him. He's laughing at us, not we're laughing at him. You know, he's laughed himself to the bank. Even before that fight, you know, he's an unbelievable businessman, which is exactly what he is. To do what he's done, to like Mike Tyson into the ring.
That brutal knockout in round 6 was supposed to end all the controversy and prove that Paul was in a legitimate fight against genuine elite competition. Jake Paul took the full force of Anthony Joshua's right hand because there was no way to fake a broken jaw, requiring emergency surgery with titanium plates to fix the damage. He couldn't avoid the inevitable any longer, and Joshua's patience finally paid off when he landed the perfect shot that sent Paul crashing to the canvas unconscious. It happened in round 6 when Anthony Joshua cornered Paul against the ropes and unleashed a devastating right hand that connected perfectly on the jaw with tremendous force. That was real power, and you cannot fake that type of damage to the human body, period. Paul's jaw was broken in multiple places. One ringside doctor confirmed after examining Paul immediately following the knockout, showing how severe the injury was. This was legitimate by everyone who saw it, regardless of questions about the earlier round.
That is wild. Oh, that was the one. That was the one. Just call it. We don't need to see another. Yeah, good fight. Just made 90 mil. Anthony Joshua got the job done. Jake did good. Jake fought his heart out. Pushed past fatigue. Showed his heart.
One fan posted on social media in a comment that got thousands of likes. Say what you want about the rest of the fight and all the conspiracy theories, but that knockout was absolutely real and devastating. Paul got completely destroyed and paid the price for stepping up. Another put it in perspective with some humor. If Jake Paul was paying anyone to take it easy on him, he got the worst deal ever because his jaw is completely shattered and he's drinking through a straw for Christmas. One criticized the conspiracy theorists and defended Paul's courage for taking the fight. People will never give Jake Paul credit no matter what he does or who he fights. He fought a real champion, got knocked out legitimately, and people still won't stop with the conspiracies. However, before all these questions became public, boxing insiders were already whispering about unusual contract clauses and strange negotiations that happened before the fight was signed. The contract included specific weight limits, unusual financial terms, and other provisions that seemed designed to give Paul every possible advantage short of actually fixing the outcome. Multiple sources confirmed that Anthony Joshua was limited to 245 pounds at the weigh-in, which is unusually light for a natural heavyweight of his size. That weight limit was specifically put in place to help Jake Paul have a better chance, one boxing insider revealed to media members speaking anonymously. Even though Joshua agreed to the terms, the restrictions raised eyebrows among people who've been around professional boxing for decades. Joe Rogan specifically mentioned these contract issues during his podcast, suggesting they represented an attempt to manipulate the fight conditions even if the actual result wasn't predetermined. Boxing is weird, but this is getting dangerous.
And I said, this fight is so big that people will tune in for so many different reasons. Firstly, because they want to see Jake Paul get flattened. Secondly, it's AJ, it's Jake Paul, it's two worlds colliding. But thirdly, it is the danger element. I said, this is a bit like...
Pay attention to this. When you start putting all these strange restrictions and limitations on one fighter to help the other guy, where's the line between smart matchmaking and something more dangerous? At what point does it stop being smart matchmaking and become something that hurts the Rogan questioned during the episode with real concern? Despite the contractual details, boxing fans continue raising serious questions about Jake Paul's entire career path and what it means for the sport's future. Back in November, Paul fought Mike Tyson in what was promoted as a professional fight but looked more like a controlled sparring session to many who watched. That Mike Tyson fight was embarrassing for boxing. A 58-year-old man who could barely move was in there with a guy in his prime, and somehow it went the distance without a knockout boxing analyst, Teddy Atlas said on his podcast with clear frustration. I love Mike Tyson, but that shouldn't have been sanctioned by any athletic commission. Now we're supposed to believe everything else is real. Come on, Atlas added with obvious skepticism. It's all about being true to the sport. When you're faking it, that's when it damages everyone involved. When you know something isn't right and you keep doing it, that's very wrong. Former champion said about the current state of celebrity boxing. After the Joshua fight, Jake Paul went straight to the hospital for jaw surgery, which at least proved that particular punch was devastatingly real, regardless of questions about everything else.
I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will beat Anthony Joshua. I know
he
I
just
will
got
beat.
knocked out, right?
Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. But I want to fight you. I will beat Canelo. I will beat a lot of people. I will not beat.
Despite his team doing everything possible to threaten lawsuits and silence critics, it's now obvious that serious doubts will follow Jake Paul for the rest of his boxing career. No matter what he accomplishes, hopefully authorities will investigate thoroughly if there's any truth to these accusations, and the reality will eventually come out one way or another. That's where things stand right now. But this story is far from over. For the best updates on news, moments, and developments in the boxing world, stay connected by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you never miss content like this that keeps you informed. Until next time, peace out and thanks for tuning in.